Welcome. Let's plays. Gameplays. DIY projects. 2. Arcade gaming. Snowly game. What's going on? Z-Man the Tech here. Thank you for tuning in to Snowly Games. As always, I appreciate you very much. And as you can see, today we're going to be taking a look at Horizon Chase Turbo by Aquiris. Huge shout out to Jesus from Aquiris for sending me this code. I am very pleased and honored to be able to have this privilege. Thanks for believing in small channels that support indie. It means a lot. So I'm just jumping right on in. You start with the Cruiser, the Infinity, and I recently unlocked Bliss. But yeah, you start off with Cruiser and Infinity, and if you take a look here, this is one upgrade that I've basically unlocked so far, which is actually done by specific races in each area, and they have like a certain criteria in order for you to be able to unlock that. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right on in, and yeah, I'm just really happy to be able to have this chance, man. I'm loving this game. The aesthetics, so 90s, very nostalgic. All right, so if you can see there, I finally learned how to do a bit of a boost there. I've been playing for a good little bit, and I don't know, I was trying to basically hit the gas on the on the second count, kind of like Mario Kart, but in this game it's actually down to the last second. As soon as that that one pops up, you give it like just a tad bit more of a second and start holding it, and you seem to be able to get the boost. So these little blue things I'm collecting here are basically kind of like an objective to each race. They're tokens. There's usually a set number of tokens per race. From what I've noticed, it's about 20. It probably fluctuates between the different stages. I haven't gotten too far. And as you saw earlier, I chose World Tour, which is basically you have to pretty much go all the way through World Tour to unlock other modes. And if you saw, before, I kind of went through it quickly, and I apologize, but if you saw some of the options there, one of them was the playground mode, which is specific to this version, the XboxOne version, as well as Nintendo Switch version. I can leave some info down in the description in regards to it, as I've not unlocked it yet, so I don't want to speak too much on something that I haven't really messed with, in all honesty. So, so yeah, as you can see, I just used my nitrous there. I'm on lap 3, and yeah, typically, first of all, let's get this out of the way. That what I just collected right there were little gas tanks, and you have to make sure that you keep that topped off, or at least, you know, anywhere above half, I would say, to race carefully and comfortably without worrying about running out of gas, because that would suck. But yeah, what I just used there was nitrous, and you only get 3 of them per race, unless otherwise some stages or courses rather will have one power up that I've seen so far extra. So just keep that in mind. Typically you have about 3 nitrous boosts before you run out, unless there's one floating around. So alright, so in this race, as you can see, there's just in general, let's talk about the sceneries, the backgrounds and things like that. It's very vibrant in color, you know. It really does like bleed the essence of the 90s, like games back then, you know. And I think it's really awesome, like the entire aesthetic, and like the controls, very tight controls, very responsive, and I love the first of all, the music is amazing. And it's really awesome that they got the original composer to the Top Gear games from back in the day, back in the 90s. Excuse me. And which is really awesome. I think that's a really cool thing. And of course, that's one of the mini games that this game is basically paying homage to and stylized after, as far as the nostalgia factor. And I'm speaking of Top Gear, Outrun. It even feels a little bit like Cruising USA, but just way faster. I would say maybe even Rush. I would give it a bit of San Francisco Rush, which is pretty cool because there's actually you start off in California, and I believe San Francisco is one of those courses. So I mean, it's just really cool. There's a lot of nods, and just the whole aspect of it in general is it bleeds the essence of the 90s. Like the music, spot on, the visuals, very classic. If you remember, I don't know, I was born in '87, so basically around the early 90s when Top Gear and all those games were pretty much prominent and thriving for their era. You just distinctly remember certain key aspects about it, and I'm speaking of like basically on those games where you're kind of in a pseudo 3D environment. You can I think what helped with that aesthetic was the kind of striped pattern you would see on the roads and just the ground in general kind of helped give you that sense of speed, letting you know that you were traveling forward. And it still has that, even though it's in basically full 3D. It still somehow captures that. It makes it very familiar. So one thing I also noticed too about this game is that it has a night and day cycle, and I think that's really awesome. Like just the simple things like the transition between night and day, where it starts getting darker and then your headlights turn on automatically, and then just the whole view of how everything looks differently. It's really nice. And there's actually a nighttime course that I'm going to do here in just a moment, where you can kind of really see all those colors, that you would really that reminds you of that era, kind of like a Miami Vice kind of feel as well. Like the colors, like the orange and like the blacks and purples, like it just really looks great. All right, so if you noticed there, you might have seen earlier I actually did it, but what happens is it kind of has that familiar and classic mechanic to where if you bump into the back of a racer, it tends to bump them forward, like a bit of a boost even, and slows you down. So typically you really don't want to bump into the back of somebody like that. So because that'll in turn mess you up pretty bad. So but basically, yeah, I mean, let's talk about a little bit more about the controls now. Like I said, very tight, very responsive. I'm just rocking it right now, getting that first place. I love it. Just moving right along here. But yeah, very tight, very responsive controls, and the options. I love control options for them to be flexible, and this is definitely one of those games when it comes to method of play. So, and what I mean by that is, for us retro gamers that are used to the more retro racers that this is basically stylized after, like Top Gear, etc. We have our D-pad. We're used to that D-pad. We're accustomed to it because there was no joystick or analog stick back in the day. So it has that option, but if you want to use stick, you can. You can use the analog stick. No questions asked. You don't have to switch settings. It's all just. Oh, here's the Night of Angels here. I want to show you as well. So just take a gander at that while I explain the controls. But yeah, the D-pad is my preferred method of play when it comes to these kind of games. It's just what I'm used to. But I still find myself, randomly switching between the two, to be honest. And because I'm, I'm a pretty big Forza fan. I was first a Gran Turismo fan, and you know, it's sad to say that the changes that have been made over the years to the series has kind of like led me astray, and I'm kind of like, my attention is more on Forza at this time when it comes to simulation racers. You know, I honestly haven't even played the newest one, the Gran Turismo Sport. I anticipate on giving it a try. I just, you know, over the years, you know, that's kind of where my, you know, I guess my thoughts and, you know, my care has kind of drifted to. But anywho, so yeah, I went into a tangent there. So why I mentioned that is because I still sometimes had that urge to play that way, where the right trigger is gas, left trigger is brake. And this game has that. You know, you can still play like that if you're accustomed to it, or you can use your face buttons, you know, for gas, brake, and nitrous. So it's very flexible. I like that a lot. And actually, it's a good point I can make too. So mentioning Gran Turismo and Forza, and, you know, games like that, as far as simulation racers, don't really come into this expecting that. You know, if it wasn't apparent already, this is an arcade retro racer. You know, it's styled as such. There are upgrades, but it's, you know, done a little bit differently in a way that's suitable for this style of game. So I'm definitely I'm definitely on board with how it's done. And if I didn't mention it earlier, yeah, there's specific races with specific criteria that you have to basically meet in order to, you know, gain that upgrade. And the cool thing is the upgrade applies to all vehicles that you have or that you've unlocked. So that way you're not stuck with, you know, upgrading one and then you're like, you know what, man, I just got this new one, but I want to try it out. Dang, I gotta hustle, you know, on, you know, upgrades from different areas to try to. Nah, you don't have to worry about that. It applies to them all, which is really awesome. I think it's very well thought through because, you know, I screwed up that boost there. Yeah, sometimes you do it too early or too late, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, so trying to make sure I cover everything here. We've talked about the tokens, we've talked about the gas cans that you have to collect. Oh, see, I just passed. There's a canister for nitrous there, and I passed it. I'll try to go a little closer on the left side of it once I come back around to show you. Oh, it sucks. Wow. See, you know, it's interesting. The way that car flipped out, it reminded me of how they flip out on Cruising USA or even San Francisco Rush. That's pretty hilarious. That might be a nod as well. I don't know. But yeah. Now, so one thing to really watch out for too. Oh, there it is. Pass it again. Man, it's so fast. I'm not sure if you saw it. You may have to like go back and pause it if I don't collect it, you know, next couple times around. But it's kind of like a pink, purplish yellow with a. It looks like it has a lightning bolt on it, possibly. Anyway. What was I saying? Yeah, anyway. So you're this game in particular, like I said, is it's just one of those things you got to take it for what it is, you know. And when it comes to like I guess the graphics and things like that. Now, as far as models, as you can see, they're not bad. I mean, they're smoothed out. It's not like it's trying to be something, you know, like super high end, because, you know, the game stays within its lane, so to speak, pun intended. So I can appreciate that, you know. Some people really get caught up on the graphics and things of certain games, but, you know, they fail to really look at what it's trying to achieve, you know, as far as, you know, theme and era and everything like that. And when I say that, this is a good point to bring up as well. So as far as who this game would be appealing to, obviously, you know, this is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. You know, some people prefer more realistic racers, things like that. But visually, when you look at it, I mean, the colors pop, everything is on point, really. when it comes to what it's trying to achieve, you know. Now, obviously, like I said, obviously you can't really compare this to like Forza or something like that, because that would be insane. That's legitimately unfair. But basically, what I'm getting at here is I think it could appeal to an even larger. Oh, I finished California. Yes, I love it. It could appeal to. It could appeal to, you know, not just the retro gamers or gamers of that era that are used to this style of game. Oh, nice. New car. Another new car. I got to try that out eventually. But basically, I want to say that it could appeal to many more, because my daughter, who is 14, who, you know, is used to all the newer type games and consoles and things like that, even thought, she was asking, hey, what is this game? It looks pretty fun. I like the way it looks. It looks really cool. It looks very old school, but new school. I'm like, hey, I know. And as well as my wife too. She also thought it was very nice. Who also plays like, you know, like newer stuff like Warframe and Killing Floor 2 and all those things that look really well. But anywho, if you like what you saw, definitely like, comment, subscribe, and thanks again for watching. And keep it locked to Stonelit Games for all of your indie game, third-party game, and tech review content. Thanks so much.